Well, hello, guys, and welcome to the start of a new direction on this channel. Um, we've done many things on this channel before, F1 chats and neurodiversity videos, other things like that. But this is the first time we're going to start moving into the realms of football, or to appease those from America, soccer, right? We're going to be focusing on the Fantasy Premier League, which is a free game that gets played alongside the Premier League which is the top league in England when it comes to football. And a game that basically anyone can play, and a new direction for everyone. And the whole idea of this is that if you are someone who knows your football very well, this is the place where you can just get the odd tips or to look back on previous matches that we will do. But the other reason why we're going into this much detail, especially at the start, is that a lot of our community that we don't want to leave behind, this is completely new to them. We're nerds. If anyone sees the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/the ND Ninja, you see that we do a lot of gaming. We do a lot of chilling and chatting. It is a nerd space, and there's probably not that many of us, apart from myself, that actually knows anything detailed about football apart from playing the game. So we're going to be going into that sort of deep dive. Now, here's the interesting thing about going into a bit of detail about all things football is you don't realise just how much detail there's going to be. By the way, the elephant in the room, you see that I'm wearing a Liverpool top. I am a Liverpool fan. The FPL tips I will do as neutral as possible, but you will quite often find that I won't have an Everton player or a Man United player in my FPL team. That is because of my personal preferences. I will stay the hell away from them. But in terms of that explanation, there is a lot to unpack. As football fans, we probably don't realise just how much we know until we start trying to explain how it works to someone that is new. So I had a little bit of a think of it. It took a lot of research. It was like the Da Vinci Code, actually, thinking about it. And it was a bit of an iceberg. Not a meme iceberg, but just an iceberg in general. At some point it will show. There we go. So this is what we're going to go through, and there'll be a couple of points we'll start touching on in today's stream. There'll be ones that we'll do as like standalone videos in terms of going through them over the coming weeks, months, and years, which will be really intriguing, really fascinating. I'm really looking forward to actually going into those deep dives. And there'll be some that we'll cover in passing and slowly unravel as the videos progress. And I've put it in these sort of levels, as you can see. So, the FPL points explanation, how it all works, where those points come from. That's going to be very easily covered in this video, no problem whatsoever. Player availability, again, fairly easy. The app, the web page will show you what players are available. The teams to watch goes into a little bit more deep dive, and again, we're going to show that again today. But again, you can find that out just by seeing almost previous results of a team and how they've done in the past. That's actually fairly easy to check up on. Then we go on to midweek games. Starts to get a little bit more complicated, I'll be honest, because what are those midweek games? Why are they not Premier League games? Why are some better than others? Why are some more difficult than others? We will go into those sort of details. Fixture mix-ups. They normally happen in the start of the new year, basically. So in like sort of January, February, March 2026 time for this season. And why it makes the FPL intriguing and complicated. Big team history, That's going to be our deep dives. Why some teams have rivalries. Why teams that you might have heard of, such as Manchester United, aren't as good as maybe their legendary status gives over. Players to watch. This is a really difficult deep dive because almost that takes a lot of it, especially when it comes to players that have come into the league for the first time, almost goes into trying to work out, okay, then where were they in terms of country? Where were they in terms of league? Did they perform well? Did they not perform well? Are they a player to keep an eye out for? Are they a player that could be a bit of a booby trap, let's say? And then UEFA competitions, trying to explain to someone why the Champions League is better than the Europa League, or why the Europa League is better than the Conference League, unless you know it detailed. It's a mess, isn't it? Let's be honest. So again, it will be a bit of a deep dive into that. And like I say, some of these we're going to touch on straight away. So let's start off with the points explanation. I think the best way of doing it is to show you how my team is looking at the moment. I think it's going to take a little while to load. So let's go over it, and we won't focus on the names too much just yet. It's more about the positions. So right at the back, we have our goalkeeper here. Now, how does the goalkeeper get points? Two main ways. One is through getting what's known as a clean sheet. So basically, the opposition doesn't score any goals against you. And also for being active, let's say. A goalkeeper that gets a clean sheet but doesn't actually have to do anything because the team is attacking so much won't get as many points as a goalkeeper for a team that's really up against it and has to make loads of saves, and also gets a clean sheet, as you can imagine, because the goalkeeper in the web page choice, and probably in our eyes too, has performed better. So when it comes to a goalkeeper, you almost have to think about that side of things. Is my goalkeeper good enough, and is my goalkeeper likely to be under a little bit of pressure? Now, defenders. In fact, actually, all outfield players here. And it's a bit of like a stage system that, again, clean sheets will get points, goals for a player will get points, and a player getting an assist, so doing the pass before the goal, will also get points. But the closer they are in position to the goal, the more points they're going to get. So a defender is going to get more. Yeah, I think that's how it works, actually. And the further away they are from the other goal, the more points that they get. What I mean by that is a defender scoring a goal is going to be less likely than for a midfielder or a forward, right? So as a result, let's say in this next match that Cucurella and João Pedro both score a goal. Cucurella will get more points for that goal because it's less likely to imagine him scoring a goal than João Pedro. Does that make sense? So defenders normally get the majority of points for, they can end up being the catalyst for something quite special. If you can see one that is likely to get clean sheets but is also likely to score goals. There was also defensive contributions. So if someone had, and I think it's by weird stats basically, but if someone has basically behaved like a general, done a lot of tackles, done a lot of defending, they will also get bonus points in a similar sort of way to a goalkeeper. Midfielders in a similar sort of way, strikers in a similar sort of way. That makes sense so far? We've covered the points part of the iceberg. Now, in terms of player availability, which I think is the next one, yes, it is. Player availability, fairly simple. In a sense, if the names are in white, they are available. If they're in yellow, then there's a little bit of an injury and there could be a risk of them not playing, but they should be okay. They'll put it in percentages, and then there'll be reds, which is they are definitely not playing either through injury or not playing for the club anymore. Good example is that you'll find somebody on Tottenham Hotspur's books at the moment, or the game called Son, and there's a reason why he is permanently in red, and that's because he isn't playing in Tottenham anymore. In fact, he's not even playing in England anymore. He's playing in America. That makes sense. So that covers that player availability part. Now it comes to the teams to watch. Now, here's the thing. Let's start looking into the fixtures that are coming up. Are they actually on this? Yes, they are. Fantastic. So these are the matches that are being played at the weekend. And here are my ideas on who to watch. Now, this will also include talking about the midweek games and talking about different details like that. So bear with me. We've got a lot to get through. So let's start off with Liverpool versus Everton. Now, on the paper, Liverpool will be the ones most likely to win it, apparently, right? They won the Premier League last season. They actually haven't dropped any points, so they haven't drawn or lost any games this season, whereas Everton have done so. So all of it is going into Liverpool's favour here. However, the one thing that is something to keep an eye on is the fact that on Wednesday, as we can see here, there we go to the BBC one now. So on Wednesday, Liverpool played against Atletico Madrid in the UEFA Champions League. Now, give you tiny bit of background about Atletico Madrid. So, as the name suggests, they are a team in Spain. They are widely considered as the third best team in Spain. And Spain, the Spanish league, is one of those top leagues that is very ultra competitive amongst like the top 3 or 4. So they are a really good team. And whilst Liverpool have won that, which is great for me, it will have also exhausted them. And you can imagine, in terms of working this out, that they would have probably flown back on the Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and have had to do some cool downs on like the fitness checks on the Thursday and the Friday. They haven't had as much time to train as Everton had, because I don't think they played at all, did they? No, I don't think they played at all. So Everton have basically had pretty much a free week where they don't have to worry at all about this game. They've had all week to prepare for that game. So that makes the game between Liverpool and Everton, that whilst Everton on paper are the lesser team, they've got more fitness. That said, I do think Liverpool do have the upper hand here. So Liverpool are certainly a team to get an eye on in terms of picking players from. I would say if you would focus on any from Liverpool, it is midfielders and attackers. We'll focus more in on players themselves, because I can see them more likely to score goals than get a clean sheet. I do think Everton have a chance of scoring a goal. I actually think this will be like a 2-1 or something like that. And if you were looking at Everton, the two big ones, Jack Grealish and Dewsbury Hall, who are midfielders, very creative, likely to get assists. So that is certainly one to keep an eye on. Let's move on to Brighton versus Spurs. Similar sort of thing when it comes to Liverpool against Everton. Spurs have the upper hand on paper. However, Spurs also played during the midweek. I believe it was on when was it yesterday? No, it's on the Tuesday. So they did play against Villarreal. They are the 4th best team in Spain. Again, similar sort of thing when it comes to Spain. Tottenham Hotspur managed to get a 1-0 victory. So again, we are talking another situation. They've had another day to prepare, so it's not been as bad as it has been for Liverpool when it comes to fitness. They've had one more day to be able to do so. So, as you can see here, them playing against Brighton might not be as complicated. What does go against Spurs, though, is they have this tendency where they sometimes slip up against, let's say, lesser teams. But I don't think it's going to be that case. I think it's going to be quite close. It could be a narrow win for Spurs, but certainly Spurs have got a good chance of beating Brighton. If I was picking Spurs players, I'd probably focus, well, as you can see from my team, I have focused on midfielders in terms of Xavi and Kudus. I've put Pedro Porro in there as well. That's more of a 50-50, but yeah, as you can see, Spurs are the one to go for. But Brighton, again, no slouches. Now, the rogue pick would be picking James Milner, someone who is, I believe, he's 39 now. Not as fit, let's say, as other players, but still can perform well. Mitoma is a good shout as well. I think does O'Reilly play for Man City as well? But for Brighton as well. Again, another good potential shout when it comes to Brighton. But if I was to pick players, I would pick some Spurs players. Now we move on to Burnley versus Nottingham Forest, and this is where things get a little bit messy. Why do I say that? Because it doesn't make sense. Because if you were to actually look at last season's table and results, Burnley weren't even in the top tier. They were competing to move up to the top tier. And Nottingham Forest, they finished, was it 5th? 6th? I think it was 6th. Maybe 7th. But they certainly finished in the top 10. They are a very competitive side. This is where Nottingham Forest are almost my pick in terms of be careful when picking players from Nottingham Forest. You see, their manager, for personal, political reasons, whatever you want to say about it, Nuno Espirito Santo, moved out. And Ange Postecoglou moved in. Ange Postecoglou at a bigger team, which was Spurs last season, finished 17th. And Nottingham Forest, in terms of the money generated and let's say the size of the squad, are not quite there on Spurs' level. This could be a risky one where Nottingham Forest could easily lose games. And the stats do actually back this up. Nottingham Forest also played a midweek game. Was it on the Wednesday, I believe? It was. And as you can see, Nottingham Forest lost a game against Swansea City. Now that's great for some of my family because they actually live near Swansea. But Swansea aren't in the top tier. And they managed to beat Nottingham Forest 3-2. Nottingham Forest looks like one of those teams that are likely to score, but not likely to keep a clean sheet. That said, they are playing against Burnley, and Burnley have been focusing more in terms of defence. If I was picking players, I would pick maybe like a striker, a forward for Nottingham Forest, because they're less likely to be affected by not getting a clean sheet, and maybe they'll get a goal or two. I think Chris Wood is their main attacker. I don't know if he'll play more, but we'll focus again more on the players when we get to it. So, next we come to West Ham versus Crystal Palace. This is one of those where, again, everything is heavily in Crystal Palace's favour. Crystal Palace actually won a trophy last season, won the FA Cup, won the English Cup. And West Ham are in free fall at the moment. Really struggling to score, really struggling to defend. Yes, they had a 3-0 against Nottingham Forest, but take that with a pinch of salt. Crystal Palace did, though, play in midweek. Again, we will go back to the scores. I believe it was Tuesday, wasn't it, that they played? Yes, so Crystal Palace played against Millwall. As you can see, they won 4-2 on penalties, so they managed to get through. But again, difficult one to win. But here's the thing. Against any team playing against West Ham right now, I feel has got the upper hand. Again, Crystal Palace, I'd perhaps focus on midfielders, but I would maybe even put a defender in. A defender that's likely to move forward and put crosses into the box or get headers. We can focus on that in a little bit more detail and go into the players to focus on. But off the top of my head, people like Laquan, Munoz, they'd be good shouts to have a look into. Wolves versus Leeds. Good matchup here. This will be a good test to see exactly where Wolves are at. This is a game that this time last year they should be winning. But they haven't got a single point yet. And Leeds have got points. This could be an interesting one. If there was one way you could put a risk on and play like sort of big players for lesser teams, I'd pick some Leeds players. But Wolves, again, still an interesting one. This would be a 50-50. I'm trying to think of the top of my head, but this could be a risk, but maybe throwing a defender from Leeds and a goalkeeper from Wolves. Or the goalkeeper from Leeds and a defender from Wolves. Just make sure you cover one way or the other. Next, we have Chelsea versus Manchester United, and you heard me talk about the fact that Manchester United aren't the big club that they used to be. They're not the special club they used to be. Chelsea have definitely got the upper hand here. This is despite the fact that Manchester United didn't play a game this week. Chelsea lost a game against Bayern Munich, the top team in Germany. Again, Germany is on a similar sort of level when it comes to the leagues as Spain and England. So again, losing to Bayern Munich, the top team in Germany, risky one. But Chelsea, again, have the upper hand. In fact, Man United has been struggling to do anything in matches. I'd perhaps throw on, in fact, I have done so with Cucurella, I'd throw on a defender from Chelsea here. I'd throw on a good couple of players for Chelsea here. I feel like they've got the upper hand. Fulham versus Brentford next. Neither of these teams, I think, played midweek. Oh no, Brentford did. Brentford played in midweek. They beat Aston Villa. We will touch on that in a little bit. And Brentford have quietly been that team where, keep an eye on them. Now, I mentioned about teams to keep an eye on. Brentford is one of those. Everyone has been staying away from them because they lost their main coach. They lost 2 or 3 of their star players. They are carrying on. Brentford is a really good pick in terms of players to go for. I think it's Igor Thiago, sorry. Players like that to really keep an eye on Sharda. And Fulham been a bit static. Just about got a win against Leeds, I believe. And again, one of those really interesting ones where Brentford have the upper hand. Maybe even pick a defender or two from Brentford and the goalkeeper from Brentford, because I do think Fulham are struggling to score, and I think they'll get shots, but I don't think they'll score. Next, we have Bournemouth versus Newcastle. This is one of those really interesting ones where we've got a real up-and-coming coach playing against a real up-and-coming team. Newcastle are that up-and-coming team. They have the player. Newcastle have the player that I love saying the name of in Voldemada. I don't know why it sounds like a cartoon villain. Maybe, I don't know. But Bournemouth aren't a team to be messed around with. They are both very, very tricky teams. To give you an idea on how equal I think these teams are, both of them scored 2 goals against Liverpool. And both of them lost at the end. So really, really interesting one. Bournemouth, I'd perhaps go for forwards like Semenyo. Newcastle, I mentioned Voltamata. There's midfielders as well. Could be potentially a scoring game. So maybe stay away from defenders and goalkeepers. But you're starting to see now that actually the few amount of times that I've mentioned defenders and goalkeepers, it's them where you get those really interesting extra bonus points. It's trying to work out who are the defenders that are likely to score because of the way that they play. Who are the ones that are most likely to put in a really solid defensive performance? Who are the goalkeepers that are likely to be active but not to concede? Sunderland versus Aston Villa. Sunderland are definitely a team to watch. They have been brilliant this season. And Aston Villa, again, I'm concerned about. They played against Brentford. They lost against Brentford. But here is even more damning. Wednesday, was it Tuesday? Yeah, it was Tuesday. That Tuesday game where they lost against Brentford, that's been the only time that Aston Villa has scored in the 5 or 6 matches that they have played. A little bit concerning for Aston Villa. Maybe if you wanted to go rogue, you put Martinez, the goalkeeper for Aston Villa, in there and go well, he's going to get a lot of saves, so maybe he's got a chance. But yeah, focus maybe on the Sunderland players here, midfielders and attackers could work well. And Arsenal Man City, huge clash. I get the feeling that Arsenal are going to get a clean sheet. Focus on defenders and goalkeepers for Arsenal, definitely. Man City seem to be struggling. Maybe throw in a midfielder or two for Man City if you're feeling risky. Can't believe I'm saying that. But interestingly enough. Now going into the team that I currently have, and I've already made that transfer, but what we'll do is each Thursday, because it will most likely be before the next week starts, we will spend some time looking into the transfers that we might do, or whether we're going to save them because you can potentially get 2 transfers, combined together to make a bit more of a wholesale change. As you can see in my team, of course I've got Liverpool players. Of course I don't have Everton players. Of course I don't have Man United players. Here's a team that I've currently got, and I might have a little bit of a play around with. Truefair is the one that potentially I might tweak out, or one of Kudus or Xavi. This is the current team that I've got. You can see more of the focus is on those either expected teams or surprise teams. The one intriguing dilemma that I currently have that I'll probably be mocked for if I get the wrong pick is which of my goalkeepers that I pick. Because Matt Sells in a struggling Nottingham Forest side against Burnley, but Burnley don't attack that much, so maybe he's more likely to get a clean sheet. Kelleher, one of the top goalkeepers in the league, in a struggling Brentford team, but playing against Fulham. I'm going with Kelleher as the upper hand, but watch Nottingham Forest get a clean sheet now that I've said all the predictions that I have. And that's basically it for our review. We will be going live each Saturday during the 3 p.m. games to have a little bit of a review of any games that have happened beforehand, which for this weekend will be the Merseyside derby, Liverpool versus Everton. And we will be basically doing a bit of a watch along of the 3 p.m. games, seeing how things go. And during those Twitch streams, if you really want to go into the deep dives, we can start talking about those deep dives. Why there is such a rivalry between Liverpool and Everton. Why there is one between Liverpool and Manchester United. Why Chelsea and Tottenham. Why Chelsea and Arsenal. Why these rivalries exist. Why some games mean more than others. And maybe those midweek competitions as well. I'm really looking forward to this new direction. I'm looking forward to, in a couple of months, when Football Manager 26 comes out, we can maybe even start doing a deep dive into that and start playing that together. And if you like the idea of doing this content and you like me talking about Fantasy Premier League, talking about football, please put a YouTube subscription in, liking the video, because it really helps me to see that this is a direction that people want to go in. And until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, and we will be seeing you later.